What is up, Netflix fans? Welcome back to my channel. So, if you haven't noticed by now, the main goal of this channel is to watch and review every single streaming movie, television show that I possibly can in the smallest amount of time possible, allowing me to, of course, process everything and whatnot. Today, we're going to talk about my 10 favorite Netflix series I have seen this year. So, when I did this list last year, I hadn't watched near as much as I did this year. I didn't see everything. There are a few shows that I missed that we'll talk about here in just a second, but my goodness, guys, this is so much harder than I ever imagined it would be because, you know, Netflix doesn't always have the best content, but when they do, it feels like it's firing on all cylinders. So to take my 30 shows that I ended up really liking or loving and shrink them down into 10 is ridiculously difficult. So I know for a fact there will be shows on my list that aren't on your list. I know for a fact that I will not talk about something that maybe you loved. There's always the possibility that I missed that. Regardless, I need your comments down below. What is your favorite Netflix series of the year? Give me your best reason why. What is your top 10? If you enjoy these lists, if you like these countdowns, smash that thumbs up button. And if you do, I may be coming out with a top 10 best TV shows of the year, including Netflix, but overall television shows. Okay, I'm going to try not to talk as much this video, I say that now, but before I get into my honorable mentions, there were a couple of shows that I missed out on. Did not get a chance to see the new season of Santa Clarita Diet. I know that could have been on this list, or The Crown. I need to catch up on The Crown. I know everyone's saying it's awesome. It's the biggie for me that I missed out on, but let's talk about honorable mentions. So there's a lot because I loved these shows. They just didn't quite get in that top 10. So Russian Doll, Sex Education, BoJack Horseman Season 6 Part 1, but it was only Part 1, so this will be in the next year's list. Dead to Me, The OA Season 2, Living with Yourself, Lucifer, the brand new season, Our Planet, You Season 2, which we just talked about on this channel, 2 seasons of The Dragon Prince dropped this year, Money Heist, Afterlife, Sacred Games Season 2, and On My Block, the brand new season. Woo! Did I miss anything? Those are honorable mentions, but let me tell you, an honorable mention for me is still a show that I loved and I praised and I talked about like crazy. Let's talk about the top 10. So number 10, I'm cheating again. There is a tie for number 10. I've been doing this on this channel as an ongoing gag, but it gives me a chance to talk about both of these shows. One that I just saw and one that I saw earlier on in the year. So let's talk about the first one first, and that is Love, Death, and Robots. This is one of the coolest shows I've ever seen, coming to us from the minds of David Fincher and Tim Miller, a team up I never thought I would see. This is a series of different stories that don't necessarily relate in plot, but they do relate in themes, and they span various genres such as fantasy, science fiction, horror, comedy. There are so many standout episodes in this series, and the episodes are fairly short, so it will not take you a long time to get through this series. I binged it as fast as physically possible. Every episode is glorious. Every episode is different. Not everyone hit me, I think, the way that they intended to, but overall, I remember getting something out of every single one. This one's one to watch, and it's on Netflix right now. And my tie for number 10 is The Witcher, the series that just dropped, just came out. Now, Austin, you didn't love The Witcher? It's at number 10? I loved The Witcher. I thought The Witcher Season 1 was really, really great, man. And I know the thing going around online is some critics only watched 3 episodes and they reviewed it, and so it's rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. If you've not seen The Witcher, don't pay... I'm not saying don't pay any mind, but watch it for yourself, because while it did take 1 or 2 episodes for me to get really invested, coming at it from an angle of someone who doesn't know as much about the video games, as much about the novel, I really am an outsider. And as an outsider coming into this series, not knowing a lot, I walked out going, yep, give me a Season 2. And I honestly think Season 2 has the possibility of being even better than Season 1, and being a top 5 show when that season releases, man. The Witcher is one to keep in mind. The Witcher is one to be on the lookout for if you have not been able to check it out. Henry Cavill gives a glorious performance. This is a fantasy epic in the vein of a Game of Thrones on that scale, but a very different story. It did take a bit to find its footing, but once it did, it was off and running, and The Witcher is one for me that deserves to be on my list, and that's why I had a tie at number 10. Coming in at number 9 for me is Dark Season 2. Now, Yeah, I know. Fans of Dark, they're going to get onto me for putting this so low on my list. And I have to be honest with you guys, from a quality standpoint, I think this is easily top 3, top 5. But in terms of my favorites, which ones do I want to go back to and revisit? Which ones do I have more fun with? There are 8 that I put above this, but that takes nothing away from Dark Season 2. Like I said, this show is brilliant. If you've never heard of it, if you're unfamiliar, it is a German-based show that explores the relationships between 4 families. It's a family saga with a supernatural twist. The way that this story is told, I think, is absolutely brilliant. I love the cinematography. I love the acting. Dark is one of those crazy, mysterious crime dramas that you've never really seen before, or you've never seen anything like it. It is a show that, takes a bit to get on board with what it's going for, but once you figure that out and you realize that this show is as brilliant as I think everyone is saying, you're going to love it. You're going to be a fan. Dark is a great show. It's on Netflix right now. And we have come to Peaky Blinders Season 5. Not necessarily my favorite season of the show so far, but Peaky Blinders is going strong, man. If you're on board with this show, if you've ever seen it before and you just haven't watched Season 5, you're hesitating for some reason, please don't hesitate. Season 5 is awesome. Cillian Murphy, we're talking the ultimate crime drama period piece show on television. The ultimate one, exploring the family, the do's and don'ts of this crime-based world, the way that they explore those, and they flesh out those relationships in Season 5, but we're more focused on Cillian Murphy's character now than we ever have been. The internal struggle is really showcased in Season 5. I'm not going to talk too long about it, just in case you've never watched this show. It's a Season 5. There's a lot before it, but if you love period pieces, if you love crime dramas, I'm not a period piece guy, but this show is one to look out for. Next up, Dark Crystal, The Age of Resistance. Now, this is coming from more of a casual fan of the original movie. I don't hold it in super high regard, but I'm fascinated by this Jim Henson-created world, and I love fantasy epics. I love things that capture the magic that this show captures, and I believe this is unlike any other experience you will have in 2019 going into 2020. Dark Crystal is awesome, man. The voice cast alone should get you into the show. The puppeteering, so much effort went into this show, and not even that, right? That's 90% of it, but even the CGI was really good when they had to incorporate those elements. If you love fantasy world building, something like The Witcher, something like Game of Thrones, this is a very different show. I've heard some complaints saying, well, you just don't get the emotion that's evoked from the characters as well as you would from humans. I get that, I understand it, but the whole point of the show was to use puppets. Dark Crystal is super cool, man. If you were hesitant, if you've never seen the original movie, you don't have to. Go into this show completely blind. I did. But if you go into this show knowing the movie, you will get much more out of it. And we come to one of the coolest superhero shows of 2019. There have been some dandies this year. One that will crack my TV series that I like a bit more than this one, but The Umbrella Academy is nothing to scoff at, folks. The Umbrella Academy rocks. This is a dark, gritty, gothic superhero world. It also captures the mystical fantasy element that we know and love, but it almost feels like The Haunting of Hill House in the way that it captured family and the struggle, the relationships between these family members, how they have to come back, and they're all going on this mission together this time, but they're also separated in the process, man. I love the way this story was told. I watched this again for a second time with my parents. They loved it just as much as I did. The show has its fans for great reasons. The fact that it's, from the singer, My Chemical Romance. I'm the world's biggest fan of that band. When I was in 8th grade, man, I was rocking out. The Umbrella Academy is it's really cool, man, and it's one of those shows that I would recommend to almost anyone. Have you guys ever seen a little show called Stranger Things? Because we got a season 3, and I know Stranger Things better than Dark? Austin? What? I'm not saying it is technically better than Dark. I'm just saying in terms of my favorites, I'm so invested in the storyline that is happening right now within Stranger Things. I love these characters. I love these relationships. I love the crew. I love how they're aging, getting older. This show made me so emotional. And I think we all know where it's going, especially with Hopper's storyline and what's happening with Eleven and that family relationship and going off on a new adventure now, going into the next season. But Stranger Things Season 3 for me worked very well. I liked it more than Season 2. Still don't know if I like it as much as Season 1, but it's a show that just it keeps delivering. In terms of overall scope, it is easily one of my favorite shows of all time. Once again, I love the nostalgia. Give it to me all day, throw it in my face. Stranger Things is great. All right, here's a really cool show that I don't think anyone is talking about, at least to the degree, to the level that they should. This is called Kingdom. It's a South Korea zombie show, but it's also a show about a kingdom set in the 1500s. We're dealing with so many different elements of royalty. You have a prince who is really the only hope against this mysterious plague that is taking over the land. You guys can only imagine what that plague leads to. Now, this is a slow-moving show. I think the pace is something that is going to make a lot of people stray away, but if you stay on board all the way until the end, this show is epic beyond belief. One thing that I absolutely loved was the cinematography and just the tone, the feel. You're on the edge of your seat the entire time, even though it's taking a bit to get from place to place, from character to character, but I'm okay with that in a show like this. And then once the action picks up and you realize, oh man, and there is a giant cliffhanger at the end of this season, but we have confirmed 6 more episodes. Cannot wait to see them. Cannot wait to talk more about Kingdom. Kingdom is so freaking cool, man. South Korean zombies in the 1500s. Just think about that. Let it soak in. Go watch Kingdom if you haven't. Only 6 episodes. But oh man, we're going to talk about some gut punches here in just a second. The first one is Unbelievable. This is a limited series based on a true story. The performances in the show were just fantastic. Merritt Wever, Caitlin Dever, Toni Collette. It's a very intense show with graphic elements. It's all about the true story of Marie, who was charged with lying about having been raped. The 2 female detectives who are on the other side of this storyline. It kind of tackles 2 different things at once. They're following the path to the truth, while Caitlin Dever's character is having to deal with the repercussions of what happened with her, and we slowly learn what actually went down, what actually happened. And oh my goodness, like I said, a gut punch of a show, but it's not just that, right? It's the filmmaking. It's the way that the show is presented, laid out, avoiding genre tropes, which is what I think this show did brilliantly, man. I mean, they could have went down a path. They could have used exposition dialogue here and there. They didn't. They kept it going in a way that I think will keep you riveted from beginning to end. So Unbelievable is one to watch out for. And then we come to another, and I mentioned this with Unbelievable, another show that's just really hard to talk about and not even necessarily a limited series that I'm ever going to revisit or go back to. And this is When They See Us. When They See Us hit me like a ton of bricks, man. I mean, this show will punch you in the gut in the most emotional way possible. The performances are outstanding, and I want to give all the kudos in the world to Ava DuVernay. Ava DuVernay, who brought us a gorgeously produced and directed and shot show. One of the best I've seen all year. This will crack my TV series of the year list, and from a quality standpoint, this is probably the best thing I've seen on Netflix, just on that technical level. If you've not seen it or you've not heard of it, 5 teens from Harlem become trapped in a nightmare when they're falsely accused of a brutal attack in Central Park. This is based on a true story. This is something that I think some people on the internet will see and be like, well, I don't want to watch that because they're just shoving things in my face. But I encourage you, give this show a chance because it approaches it in such a way that doesn't just feel like it's shoehorning things in to spread a message and whatnot. It spreads a message, and it does a wonderful job at that. But it's not that kind of show. It is a show that will hit you on every emotional level possible, and it's one that really affected me, man. I watched When They See Us, and I said, that's well done. Straight up. That is so well done. I was so impressed. It is a show that I encourage everyone to watch. This Unbelievable, the best limited series on Netflix by far, by a mile, that I've watched all year. Y'all know me. I mean, I'm a diehard David Fincher fan, and I know I'm going to get a little bit of flack for putting this at my number 1 because a lot of people told me, a lot of people in my comment section of that review, that Mindhunter Season 2 just wasn't as good as Season 1, and I kind of agree with that. But Season 1 is one of my favorite seasons of television of all time. I still thought Season 2 was brilliant. I thought the pacing was absolutely phenomenal. We're approaching this story in a very different way this season, which I think caught some people off guard. Maybe we didn't dive as deep, say, into Holden's character this season. But we did kind of get to focus on everyone else, and we did get storylines that progressed in such a way that kept me captivated. And I know it's a show, it's like, ooh, who's going to be the guy that we get to interview this week? Is it Charles Manson? But when you get to these interviews, Charles Manson was incredible, not the person who played the person. I mean, this interview, this scene is one of my favorite scenes on television of the entire year. The interviews are awesome, but then when we kind of stray away from that by the end of the season, we get something that is different, that is very much not season one, and I was absolutely okay with that. Mindhunter is one of my favorite shows of all time. I've been on record saying this, and if you don't like the mysterious crime drama approaching it from a very slow-paced way, then I don't think you're going to love this show, and you may love Season 2 more than you love Season 1, vice versa, but I do think it's a show that everyone should at least try out. I have a friend, he tried watching it with his wife. They were like, it's not for me, and that's okay. That's okay. All of these Netflix shows, these series can hit you on a different level, whether it's emotionally or just from approaching it from a critical standpoint. Regardless, man, there's a lot of good stuff on Netflix right now. A lot of great stuff that came out this year from the movie space, which I've already talked about on this channel. I did my top 10 Netflix movies of the year, to television series, which have absolutely rocked it, man. Thank you so much for watching this video. This was a lot of fun, just fleshing out my thoughts on shows that I love, but even the honorable mentions, man. All of these shows are worth watching. I encourage you guys to just open up that Netflix account and start binging, man. That's the beauty of it, even though I think episode by episode is kind of the way to go now, but that's okay. Thank you once again. You guys are truly the best. Stay tuned, because my top 10 movies of the decade is coming soon. There's my tease. I'm gonna go take a shower.